CFM Radio.
CFM Radio, we are live.
Greetings and welcome, gamers, brothers, sisters, for another edition, a Wednesday night full of video game music and news. What is up, Vector?
What is up, Drix? Thank you once again for spinning all this awesome video game music for us, and thank you to our viewers for tuning in to CFM Radio, and thank you for 50 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you very much.
Yes, beautiful milestone. It is my honor and pleasure to be DJing the best video game music we can get away with playing on YouTube.
The best video game music, especially right now, taking a risk playing playing some F-Zero for you guys, especially in the face of Nintendo's new Nintendo Music app that they just released. We're not going to go into much depth on that, but if you guys have a Switch Online account and a phone, you could use it to pretty much have Nintendo Spotify.
That is awesome. Very welcome and almost like about time. Yeah, I'm starting the show off with some F-Zero music because I also, with your Switch Online account, I discovered F-Zero 99. And man, it's amazing. I'm not late to the party because there's always, 98 other people to play with. But yeah, if you haven't already, jump in on that. So these tunes are freshly in my head across some beautiful looking remastered maps with a ton of people playing. Yeah, my favorite 99 anything so far.
Drix, I do love me some F-Zero 99. It's a great game. I think it's one of my favorite free-to-play games that you can play on the Switch. I got pretty good at it. I was playing at like the King Queen Cup level, and it was pretty fun. People are crazy in that game, though, man. They get pretty damn good.
Nuts. It's fun, and some people, it's like they haven't stopped playing since the original SNES cartridge,
Like I was telling you before the show, that's kind of how I thought. But,
Yeah. Easy maps are fun, but the hard maps, good luck.
Oh, man. And because those tight corners, you got to hit all of the zips. Well, you can't miss those things. You have to hit all of them, and then you have to know when to boost. Like, woo.
Yeah. That you get almost 100 other people in your way, and it gets that much more tough.
100 other people until you get to the top cut, and then it's you and only 9 other people, and it almost feels like classic F-Zero race where it's you and just head to head with like a couple of other guys just zooming through these tight corridors. F-Zero 99, if you haven't played it on Nintendo Switch, it's free to play. You should check it out. Even if you're not too into racing games, F-Zero 99, it's one of those games where there's enough sense of speed that it can really draw you in.
Yeah, and it's enough of a classic. They really just, I don't know, I feel like Nintendo kind of knocked that one out of the park. Just giving something, maybe a low-hanging fruit, maybe a little low effort as far as game design goes. It's like, yeah, just revamp something old. But boy, did they serve it to us in like such a new and inventive way. And like even with just 4 cars to choose from, it's everybody's getting a lot of love out of unlocking all the colors, the skins, the badges, like the fun stuff. Good community to be had.
Absolutely. F-Zero 99, awesome game. I've also been going back, playing some games before our Game of the Year picks on the CFM Awards. I went back, I played a little bit of Dragon's Dogma, still a pretty good game, but I was telling you before the show, I started paying for the second tier of PlayStation Plus. I think it's like PlayStation Plus Premium or something like that.
Yeah.
And they
More
have
premium.
Yes. And they have this game, a little game called Animal Well from the publisher Big Mode, which is owned by the YouTuber Video Game Donkey. And he is if you know him, he's a very comedy focused video game YouTuber. But I gotta say, This game got some high reviews, and I didn't really buy into the hype. I'm not really. Yeah, it takes a lot to sell me on a platformer. You know, I grew up in the golden age of platformers: Super Nintendo, SNES, or regular Nintendo, SNES, Sega Genesis. You know, there's even some great platformers on the PlayStation, the OG PlayStation.
Yeah, just 3D experiments.
3D and 2D. You got games like Skull Monkeys, Klonoa.
Yeah.
Like
Love Klonoa.
Yeah, Pandemonium. Pandemonium's like a 2.5D. Like
Yeah. Yep. And some games may have also been featured on the Sega Saturn.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? That Sega Saturn, that talk about experimental. But
yeah. Your Gex is still waiting on that remake.
Yeah, right. But so there's it takes a lot for me to get invested in a platform, and you know what? I gotta say, I'm only about an hour into Animal Well, and I'm hooked. It's really fun.
Cool. Love to hear it. Yeah. Speaking of Dragon's Dogma and Capcom, I caught a little bit more of that Monster Hunter Wilds beta over the weekend too.
Ooh.
I got like a new monster. And one thing I forgot to mention in the review is that you can take 2 weapons out with you on your mount and then switch while riding them. So, you know, one time I go out with the gun lance and like, dual swords. Then the next time I go out with like a great sword doing anime attacks. And then the heavy bowgun, you know, because monster is weak against bullets. Every monster is weak against bullets.
Oh. Well, that makes sense, I guess.
Yep.
Bullets just make them more
What an
angry,
Earthbound
right?
stream, too.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Drix. Who knew that that final stretch of the game would be so long?
Yeah, I got the 8th.
Yeah, I was going to say the third.
8th Sanctuary location. And then I think I'm heading up to the final boss. I thought the last stream could have been the final one. Not quite. The difficulty, you know, it's continuing to ramp. So once I hit that hard wall of fresh new monsters to fight, yeah, I was like, we'll take it. We'll take it to another Mother Monday. You may luck out and tune in over on Twitch.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out that VOD. And you know what, everybody, I'm gonna be the first one to apologize for not coming in with any stream on Tuesday over on Twitch. I gotta be straight up with you. I had a save file corruption. And
oh boy.
Yeah, it was really shitty, and I pretty much had to hook the I'll only admit this on a live show, but if you watch me play a PlayStation game, I'm probably playing it off my PlayStation Mini, and
yeah.
That thing is, it's pretty much just a little emulation box with a HDMI port on it, and you know, sometimes everything runs off of a flash drive that I have plugged into the box, and sometimes, you know, I'm running off an OTG cable, you know, so like. Sometimes
hardware.
Yeah, sometimes that thing, it just doesn't really have the juice. The power distribution gets a little wonky. So, you know, it's not really built for any of that. So when you push it sometimes, or turn off the power button, I guess wrong, it could have an adverse effect. And that's what happened. Luckily, I was able to plug it into my computer and pull from a save state.
Nice.
Yeah. God, thank God that little emulation box treats every game that you load on it like it was always there in the first place, and just gives you save states whenever you leave the game. So like, I was able to load from save state into the game and then get to where I was before, and now we're where we are.
Yeah, behind the scenes on Twitch, we all know the painful sting of data loss.
God, you know what, Drix, I gotta say, I'll be the first one to be old man yelling at clouds here on CFM Radio. I don't know, with how good these kids today have their damn autosave. I don't know, man. These autosaves be pretty good. Like,
Oh man. But sometimes, it's used against you. Like in the game review we're going to talk about coming up pretty soon. Like if you're playing an odd Iron Man modes, it's just like, oh, you made a choice.
Oh, yeah.
It's time to save and stick with it. Enjoy the consequences.
That even happens sometimes in Baldur's Gate 3. But you know what? We're going to explore that concept a little bit more, like you said, with our game review. Because, Drix, we've got what you reviewed.
Yeah. I've put a good 20 hours into Metal Slug Tactics. So, getting into it, you may or may not want to be familiar with Metal Slug already. Like Vector was saying earlier, we kind of grew up in the golden age of platformers, and this is more on the action side. But, we're going from a platforming series to a turn-based, what I will call a tile strategy game, where you're taking turns, moving things around on a grid, making actions. It's not the run and gun type scenario that we're used to seeing on our familiar Neo Geo cabinets, which still thankfully litter the world today.
True.
But for me, this was a mixed bag, and may or may not be because of my familiarity with the previous games. If you don't have that point of reference and you walk into it all fresh, you might not have some of the same critiques that I do about it, but there is a lot of things that Metal Slug Tactics gets really, really great and on point, on the nose. So when you're taking turns, making your little chess-like decisions on the tile, one of the cool things that it nails is this like momentum and dodge mechanic. Ooh. So the more your characters move, they actually gain more defense against damage. You get 3 characters. You unlock more, like 9 or 10 of them as you beat the game. And a couple, like 2 attack options, one with limited ammo, one with unlimited. Lots of different loadouts and sort of items. But when you move, you generate dodge, which is used in defense, so the enemies don't take any of your 10 HP that you usually start with away from you. So you can block sort of attacks based on how much you move. That feels cool. That is like, it really syncs up with the run and gun of the original platformers. Another thing is sync attacks. So if the range of your other characters' attacks line up, if they're sort of perpendicular to each other, or if they share the same sort of attack space, then you can chain together a bunch of attacks on a single enemy, which is really useful on bosses and stuff. So those two things line up really cool. You might see in the B-rolls like some of the map, the menus, and the choosing of things. There's like some roguelike elements at play. So like I was saying earlier, the game auto saves fairly frequently, actually. So almost like on a per turn basis. You can get like far into an event or a level, and you won't be able to go back to a certain point. It gives you a couple leniencies, like, if a character dies, you get a couple of like reinforcements, as it's called. You can kind of resurrect your characters on the spot, but only a limited number of times as you progress through there's like 4 areas, and each area is like randomized like handful of levels, and you have to do sort of three stages in each area. So that's where some of the roguelite aspects come into play, because every time you open the game, it's going to be different scenarios, different sort of like objectives. One, you have to like escort, Rumi, the trader girl who's always hauling around the backpack full of items. Sometimes you have to save the classic like POW characters, and there's always secondary objectives that if you do it without getting KOs or you don't take a certain amount of damage, then you can unlock bonuses and upgrades that'll help you throughout your playthrough.
All right.
So I beat it. I beat it once. I unlocked 2 more characters. Yeah, so the roguelite elements definitely keep the maps and the units fresh. So the game, like, it retains most of its Metal Slug charm. Like, this game was on my wish list. I was glad to see it come back and sort of take a deep dive into, like, a whole other genre. But there's some stuff that's like, okay, this should feel familiar, but it doesn't. And that is mainly in some of the like art direction, I want to say. A lot of mostly the interface, like the menus and stuff, kind of gives off this like mobile game atmosphere. Like, oh, I could just be playing this on a touch screen, I can speed up the movements like it's an idle game or something.
Literally speeding up the movement.
Yeah, I don't think I did that in any of the B-roll, but I did during my gameplay. Like, okay, hurry up, let's get this on the road. But there's a couple of like unpolished visuals as well, or at least that I noticed in like my review copy. That kind of stuff might get like patched out later. Like something blows up and it looks like just like a solid color underneath it, or like the sprite moves across a gap and then just like falls suddenly and comes back, like disappears off the screen and shows up again in the next tile. So like a couple of little like polished things, but mostly like something in the atmosphere feels like it's missing the soul of its predecessors. Like the original Metal Slugs, we're going over this a bit before the show tonight, but the original Metal Slugs had this kind of like dark, gritty, almost industrial art style, and like this one, like, yeah, it is pixel art, but in a lot of the technical details, like the outlines, like the shading, the color palette, like in the really artsy nitty gritty, you can tell like, like I wish this would have lined up more. Like it's almost wearing the skin of Metal Slug, but it's a tough job to get close to like an original reference, or like, oh, we did something in the 90s, like let's do it again 20 years later, like some kind of reboot or something. Kind of can hit or miss on you,
Yeah, it definitely has, it 100% has a different, a lighter aesthetic. When you look at the character portraits, even in the not right now, you don't see them, but when you see the UI with Fio and Eri and Tarma and stuff like that, when you harken back to the original Metal Slug and you look at the character select screen, all those characters look really like exaggerated, dark.
Yeah, almost like Picasso with their features,
Yeah,
this is just kind of like, okay, anime, Shonen Jump. Like, if it's not pixel art, it's Invincible Fight Girl, it's Adventure Time or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not bad or wrong, but just doesn't feel Metal Slug, you know?
Your mileage may vary. And it's like you said, if you didn't know, or if this is your first Metal Slug, you might even get into it. But it definitely, as someone else who has played some Metal Slug before, I definitely
being the retro guys that we are.
Yeah, being a retro guy,
being the old head.
Yeah, old heads that we are. I definitely can see where you're coming from, because especially with some of the locales, like you're seeing like military bases with like the desert enemies, like the desert biome enemies, and that honestly just never happened in the original Metal Slugs, really. Like,
yeah, they definitely weren't as bright and shiny.
Yeah,
and Oh boy, I'm starting to play some Metal Slug music. This is from Metal Slug X. But that for me was another miss. Like, the music isn't bad. It sounds like Metal Slug, especially when there's like a military snare roll happening. So there's only like a handful of like references to the original music. I think they could have used a lot of themes from the original songs and like iconic stuff. So like the instrumentation kind of like wants to get close, but it's a tough job, emulating those Neo Geo sort of chip sounds that I got going for you in the background right now. But man, if they would have taken a couple of those themes and like implemented it again in a new way, say Super Mario RPG remake style,
I see.
That would have been such a big hit. And I feel like they probably had the license and wherewithal to be able to do that. Like, for me, it's the desert stage with the first one. They're just like, just that. If that would have been in there, like I would have shit bricks.
Yeah, no, 100%.
There's a couple songs that I'm just like, man, like they really missed out. So the music isn't bad. Again, not bad or wrong. Just kind of art direction that for somebody who played a lot of the first games just didn't quite hit with me. It got close. Still a lot of fun. Doesn't get in the way of having fun in the gameplay. But you know what kind of did get in the way for me was the skills and the items and the way some of the loadouts work. To me, it's hard to synergize because that's one of the roguelike things that doesn't work in its favor is like you're very rare and like not always likely to get abilities and mods and like upgrades that kind of sync up together. Like if the special attack doesn't do more damage than my regular attack, like why would I opt to use it? What you really want to do, and what's really fun actually, is to like certain abilities and passive special actions and passives. That's what you have to work with. Like items you have to activate and passive stuff that just kind of happens all the time. You can get more damage from like your synchronizations and stuff. You can generate more adrenaline, which you also gain by like moving around, so you can use more special actions. But it's so hard, and like it's just really randomized the way you can get them to sync up. Like on my first run, I got an ability that was for knives. Like I rolled it and I was like, oh, this could be cool if I could use it, but I couldn't use it because my loadout didn't have a knife. You have to beat the game to get that loadout to give that character a knife. Kind of thing. So some of the randomness doesn't really synchronize that well. Like you're not gonna go up a standard skill tree, like it's not, you don't see a path ahead of you like, oh, I want my play style is like this, so I'm going to get that ability and then go to this one. Like, no, it's all random. And every time you beat the game, you have to pretty much start over. Like, you choose your loadout in the beginning, and then you have to play out your entire run. So 4 areas, 3 stages, and a boss each. Like, you kind of have to get your loadout right when you leave, the cargo bay. And that'll determine your survivability. So I don't know. And then a lot of the challenging parts of it, from what I saw, like I don't see a lot of reward in these like loadouts. Because again, like if it's not doing as much damage and helping me deal with the enemies as quickly as possible, like in as few turns as possible, then I might not use it. But if I get one thing that does enough damage to take out tough enemies in one hit, and maybe give me some bonus moves, some bonus actions, and just gain, sync attack, extra move, extra act. That's kind of where the core of the gameplay lies. Yeah, you really want to combo things together, but depending on how the dice roll, you may or may not get it. You may just have to, get stuck. Hopefully you get a nice, asset. You can just deploy a Metal Slug in the middle of a fight. So, yeah, I think that about covers my pros and cons for Metal Slug Tactics. But overall, my final score is gonna be a 3 out of 5.
All right, 3 out of 5. Like, and
good game. Go play it. Whether you are familiar with Metal Slug beforehand or not will definitely influence how much fun you have and how much you enjoy it. I enjoy it. I could play it for hours, but just some of these other stars didn't align for the artwork and just the general atmosphere, especially when compared to like the last couple games I've reviewed. Man, 3 out of 5.
And hey, you know what? Not just on a subjective aesthetic level, but it definitely sounds like the rogue, from what you were saying, the roguelite or roguelike aspects that bleed into your direct gameplay also don't seem well thought out. It kind of you know,
some really work, but others like the skills and stuff, it's tough. It's a dice roll. It's random. Not necessarily procedurally generated, but yeah. You don't know if you're going to get a good strategy until you sort of try it out and fail, maybe.
Wow. Yeah. So you better like trial and error to the extreme, to the point where you don't even, it's not even like, like how it is in old school games where like it's like a pattern recognition thing. It's like, nah, boy, you're rolling these dice. Like,
yeah. Good luck. Try again next time.
Wow. Kind of crazy. Definitely understand how you can how that adds to that mobile game feel on top of being able to speed up the battles.
Yeah, you got a little pixel art, a little anime, and just not a cohesive package when it's such an influential IP. But you know, I do like the game. It's good.
So, Metal Slug Tactics, what did you play it on?
On PC.
All right. Yeah. And that is
Steam even.
PC Steam, Metal Slug Tactics. It is available for PS4, PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and Switch, and as well as PC Steam. What Drix played it on definitely seems like your mileage may vary, and right when it comes down to almost every active facet of the game, right down to the strategy in the strategy tactics game. Like,
yeah, if you want to try a tile-based, turn-based tactics strategy game that's a little different and like kind of cool, like definitely check it out. But if you're as heavily into like the Metal Slug aesthetic, you may find your mileage may vary. Yeah.
Or even, I guess, from how you sound, because as someone who's really into just straight up turn-based tactical RPGs, it doesn't sound like I can do a lot of planning ahead. Like,
no, not really. It's all kind of trial and error. And yeah, you're lucky if the stuff you draw syncs up. Like you might get it for one character, but definitely not for all three. Like the 3 people you get to take into all your missions until you finish the game and play it again.
Oh wow.
Challenge wasn't that. I don't think I was rewarded as much for the challenge that it presented, especially with the autosave.
Yeah.
Iron Man light.
Oh, I didn't even. Wow. Yeah. So, Metal Slug Tactics, 3 out of 5 from Drix, CFM. We will thank you very much for checking this one out. And your mileage may vary, but if you're into a different kind of turn-based tactical RPG that I guess from what you say sounds pretty fast, then check out Metal Slug Tactics.
Yeah, beat it. It won't take you too much time.
Yeah, especially since the game clearly wants you to just play it over and over again because you're just like pulling down a slot machine lever every time.
Yeah, beat it. Whether you beat it again or not, it's on you. I might.
Sounds good, and that'll do that for our review of Metal Slug Tactics. Once again, that is a 3 out of 5. And now we are going to take a break, but right before we take a break, we are going to quickly talk about Nintendo.
Ooh, yes, the big N.
Indeed, the big N themselves. And now, Drix, I don't think it's an exaggeration that Nintendo has absolutely torn it up this generation. The Nintendo Switch has been on the top of the charts each holiday season, and it's been on and off the charts, honestly, every other month, right? Like,
It's had a nice lengthy time on shelves, so it's seen its rises and falls in sales. But I think they're getting their mileage worth for this hardware, and they might continue to do so.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, Drix, because you know, since its release in 2017, it has enjoyed comfortably high sales. But it looks like things are slowing down a bit because from Sherwood.news, the headline is, quote, Nintendo's squeezing one last holiday out of the Switch as sales plunge.
Oh yeah, let's take this pony on its last ride.
I guess so, because from the article, quote, the Nintendo Switch heading into its 8th holiday season is selling like whatever the opposite of hotcakes are. The console's sales fell 31% from last year in the video game maker's latest report. And reading further, quote, slowing sales will probably throw a wrench in the Japanese game maker's lofty goal of selling a Switch to every individual, not just every household. As of September, it sold 140 million Switches, or 146 million Switches since its 2017 debut. Good enough to be the third best-selling console of all time, between Sony's PlayStation 2 and Nintendo's own DS. And Drix, you gotta hand it to Nintendo. They've been in the game long enough to see empires rise and fall around them.
Yeah. No. Mario is just a cultural icon, so just put him on the pedestal he deserves. And all his little friends. You know? All of his Smash brothers, if you will.
Indeed. The Koopa friends.
Yeah. Sounds like next year this Switch hardware might be hitting the glue factory.
I guess so, but you know, the article finally points out that the Big N isn't pushing a Switch follow-up this year, Drix. Quote, one analyst told Reuters that making a hardware announcement in the middle of the critical holiday shopping season could cause problems for the Mario Maker.
Oh yeah, and they did mention at one of the last Nintendo Directs that you know, they might begin to even think about talking about the Switch 2 around the holiday season. But it sounds like that might have hit some kind of delay. Like, no, let's maximize, you know, the last leg of this Switch hardware, and then hopefully big reveal. You know, maybe another screen.
And you know what, Drix, since Nintendo's latest financial report came out just a few days ago, it seems like the company itself agrees with that. Maybe not another screen, but it leads us into our next little bit of news, which comes from the Nintendo CEO Shuntaro Furukawa via the official X or Twitter, the Zitter, if you will, page.
The
Zitter. And here it is, quote, this is Furukawa. At today's corporate management policy briefing, we announced that Nintendo Switch software will also be playable on the successor to Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the successor to Nintendo Switch as well. Further information about the successor to Nintendo Switch, including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, will be announced at a later date. So you know what, Drix, they're in no rush.
Yeah, backwards compatibility confirmed. Like, you're shopping on the same marketplace. That sounds pretty cool.
Pretty good for everybody who is heavily invested into the Switch atmosphere. And you know what, Drix? It's the third best-selling console of all time. There has to be plenty of people who are invested.
Yeah, exactly.
And Drix, we're going to get into the new games for the week, but first we're going to take a break because we got a jam. What is this?
Speaking of Nintendo, we got Paper Mario Color Splash for the Wii U. This song is for Black Bowser's Castle.
Black Bowser's Castle for Super Paper Mario Color Splash. CFM Radio will be back.
CFMRadio.
Let's go.
where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and my skin is not glowing all day. Home, home on the wastes, where the mole rat and the fire gecko play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and my skin is not glowing all day, where the rats ain't too high, the water's not bad, the rat's corpse are playful and mild. Oh, I would not exchange this home on the wastes for all the big cities so wild. Home, home on the wastes, where the master's great armies once played, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and my rats are not rising all day. Home, home on the wastes, where the mole rat and the fire gecko play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and my skin is not glowing all day.
CFM Radio.
CFM Radio, we are back.
That one was for all my New Vegas fans. I know I'm talking to one here with Vector right now.
Yeah.
That was Home on the Wastes from Fallout New Vegas. Little spin on a classic tune in the American Songbook.
Hell yeah, we love that one from Fallout New Vegas, Home on the Ways, personal favorite of
Yeah.
mine as well.
I love when my skin isn't glowing all day.
Hey, you know what? I just love me a good mole rat.
Where the fire geckos roam, home on the wastes.
Home on the Ways. And you know what? You know what CFM Radio is the home of every week?
New game releases?
Absolutely. Your source for new game releases. And we have one we are starting off with. First up, it is Mario and Luigi Brothership.
Oh yeah. It's time for these brothers to ship. Speaking of
Whoa.
sweet Nintendo RPGs like
Whoa,
Paper
whoa,
Mario.
whoa.
And like,
We're not brother shipping. This is just brother ship. Okay?
two brothers shipping and packing and delivering.
And delivering and fulfilling.
Amazon fulfilling.
Amazon fulfilling. From the eShop page of Mario and Luigi Brothership, quote, set sail with Mario and Luigi on Ship-Shape Island, part ship, part island, to search for the drifting islands of Concordia. When the brothers work together, you never know what you might find. Mario and Luigi Brothership hits Nintendo Switch exclusively this Friday, November 8th. And you know what, Drakes? This game just looks pretty good. I love the aesthetic.
Yeah, and this isn't like a remake from a DS game, is it? It's a
No,
new one.
it's a new one.
Mario and Luigi, like RPG style awesomeness. It's gonna be cool. I know I enjoyed the last Mario RPG I played.
Absolutely, the last few Mario RPGs have been nothing but great. And again, that one comes out tomorrow, November 7th, Friday, November 8th, exclusively for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, first party Nintendo talking today.
Oh yeah. Next up, we have Empire of the Ants.
Oh no, it's like the movie Them. Here they come.
From the Steam page, quote, conquer enemy nests and lead your colony through the perils of the forest in this groundbreaking RTS. Empire of the Ants is a photorealistic, third-person, real-time strategy game where you command your insect legions in epic battles.
Wow. Talk about like a, multiplayer ant farm going on over here.
Seriously. And that's Empire of the Ants. It releases tomorrow, November 7th, for the PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC via Steam.
Yeah, this one's really taking the sim ant game to the next level, especially with all that photorealism you're seeing on the B-roll.
Yeah, no kidding. It looks really good. Very impressive visuals. Looks like that.
Nature.
Give you that
Nature
natural,
enthusiast rejoice.
right? That National Geographic.
Yeah, just about. Know what it's like to participate in the Queen's Hive.
And finally, we've got the last game that we're talking about this week in our new releases. It is Slitterhead.
Slitter? I barely know her.
Let alone Slitterhead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna slit her head. We just met.
Damn. From the Steam page.
This isn't a slasher movie. Halloween's over.
Here, listen, maybe the Steam page will have some answers. Quote, set in the densely cluttered streets of Kowloon, filled with obscurity and chaos, this battle action adventure game casts players as the Hilki, an entity devoid of memory and physical form. His only motive is to eradicate the monstrous beings known as Slitterheads, crawling around the city, disguising themselves as humans.
Wow, this looks pretty cool. I'm glad we got to sneak out, another sort of like almost psychological horror game, right after Dia de los Muertos and stuff. But I'm getting hints at like the Chinese development scene that the developers from Wukong Black Myth were talking about. They're like, yeah, this game's success, you're gonna see other games succeed. Hope this game succeeds. Seen a lot of good storytelling and some cool IPs, especially watching recent horror movies and stuff for Halloween. Like some cool stuff coming out of there.
Absolutely, this game definitely looks pretty cool. It seems like it has an interesting premise, but we'll see what everyone has to say about it when the rubber hits the road, because Slitterhead comes out this Friday, November 8th on PC, PS5, PS4, and Xbox Series consoles.
Yeah. The cutscenes are looking pretty like Yakuza nice. Like it's, I don't know. I props to whoever directed the cinematography of this, beautiful 3D world.
Yeah, it's
beautiful
pretty,
when it's not horrific and horrifying. Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When it's not trying to be absolutely fucking crazy scary. Crazy that it runs on a PS4.
Yeah, actually, good on you, chap. But you might want to, like my experience with Diablo 4, you might want to dish it out for the better hardware. I know I beat Armored Core 6 on a PS4 and wish I beat it on a PS5. It was so beautiful.
the lights in the garage, Drix.
Truly the 60 FPS. Yes, the ray tracing only in the garage. When you're looking at your mech and taking pictures of it, of your creation, your emblems and art that you spent hours on. Sweet.
Now, Drix, we are going to get into our final bit of video game news right here.
Gaming news.
Because it's a big one.
Oh, yeah? Talking big names in the gaming industry?
Big names in the gaming, not just big names in the gaming industry, Drix, but potentially some emerging, some older, even older names that will be re-emerging.
Yeah, that's cool. Could you be? Could this be Sega related? I hope it's Sega related.
It in fact is, because Drix, and this is a big, like I said, it's a big one, and because here's the headline from VGC VideoGamesChronicle.com. Its headline is why Sega is reviving classics like Shinobi and Jet Set Radio across games, film, and TV.
Ooh, yeah, that's interesting. Some nice nostalgia pills, some member berries, if you will. Yeah, bring it on.
Absolutely, Sega. You know, now I think we've talked about Sega enough on the show as Sonic and Yakuza fans, respectively, about their increased presence in the public eye, especially following that leak we covered last year, right? Or like at the beginning of this year.
There was a Yakuza-themed AEW wrestling match. It was called the Like a Dragon Street Fight. That, man, I won't forget that anytime soon. You know, Japanese wrestler riding around on a bicycle and like hitting dudes over the head with it for a second. Man, good stuff.
Talk about media crossovers, Drix.
Yeah, no, I hope to see more of that.
And so here's the thing, right? Sega, like I was just saying, they've had some pretty good successes. God, Sonic Shadow Generations is a 9 out of 10.
Wow, yeah, Game of the Year contender right there. Can't wait to get my hands on that one. Edgy Shadow.
Yeah, man. But here's the thing. This section from the article and interview should make Sega's latest ambitions quite clear. Quote, Justin Scarpone, I don't know how you pronounce that, sorry, who joined Sega earlier this year following a lengthy career at Disney and others, is the company's new global head of transmedia, whose job is now to take the success of the Sonic brand outside of video games and replicate it with Sega's other franchises, like Persona and Like a Dragon, across film, streaming, TV, live shows, and merchandise.
Dude, that sounds pretty sweet. You know, transmedia could be my favorite kind.
Hey, you know, especially when you got guys from Disney coming in, that's some heavy hitting talent, Drix.
Yeah.
Ooh. Whoa. Oh no. Hold on. One second. Okay. Oh. Ooh. Sorry, bro. We will take a quick break. We lost Drix.
Haha.
All right, we're back.
chugging a little bit.
Hey, that's all right. We'll get through it. Or not. Are we here?
Boop.
Boop.
Yeah, now we're listening to Jet Set Radio.
There we go. There we go. All right.
Damn. Heading towards a great show. A
Hey,
hiccup here and there.
A little bit.
Little Brought to you by Spectrum. This disconnect was brought to you by Spectrum Internet. Not Frontier or T-Mobile.
Spectrum.
Yup.
But it's okay because, like we were saying, Justin Scarpone here. You know, he's only been at Sega for the past 6 months, and we're gonna paraphrase it here. He was discussing that it's a very different culture between Sega and Disney, and that they needed to tap into a lot of their IPs, but he makes a really good point in that, quote, I think there's a core set of IPs that are currently the core pillars of the company. You have Sonic and Friends, you have Persona, you have Like a Dragon, and I would also definitely put Angry Birds in that bucket. Also, some things we do in Europe are quite interesting, like Football Manager, which is very stable and has a very loyal audience. Creative Assembly has Total War as well, and you know what, Drix? He's not wrong.
Wow. Okay, so Sega gets this new / old guard from Disney, and his first thought is, hey, you have all these other pretty sweet IPs, like, why don't you blow them up?
Yeah, because he goes on again, quote, and then we have what we call the Sega Legacy IP, which is the ones that the interviewer is alluding to. That could go back to the days of when we were in the hardware business, arcade machines, Genesis, Mega Drive, and all that. And this is arguably the most interesting undertaking for transmedia. We just announced we recently have plans to make a Shinobi film, and Eternal Champions has come out fairly recently, I believe, as well as announced. And there are more that we're working on. So, and that the interesting thing that is, you have a generation of folks who remember those titles fondly from their childhood or young adulthood, who are in their 40s and 50s. Then you have a younger generation that, frankly, really doesn't have any connectivity to that IP. So the challenge is, if we try to reinvent these IPs, how do we connect? Which platforms, and how do we evolve the lure for these IPs that are lesser known, frankly speaking? And how do we connect with new generations? And Drix, again, he's right. You know, I love Altered Beast, but my little brothers have no fucking clue what that is.
Yeah, what would be the best way to show them, you know? Give me like a Golden Axe, you know, Game of Thrones Netflix show or something.
Something like that, because even, you know, I'll say it like this too, and people, this could be a hot take, but even crappy shows like the Yakuza show that don't have anything to do with the franchise at large, right? Even those are okay because they can still have that effect of like, hey, you know what, maybe I'll try the game.
Yeah, maybe if Fallout comes out with a TV show, I'll want to play Fallout 4 again.
Right, exactly. Because, you know, finally, we're going to end this, Drix, on Scarpone's thoughts on the upcoming fan-first approach to the process of the creative process, which actually conflicts with a view that he had before. You know, I won't go out of order. We're just going to go in order. You know, when he was asked about choosing IPs that would be revived, Scarpone responded, I had the same question when I joined it, and even asked it to Sega America and Europe CEO Shuji. And what I found, and he was very ardent about this point, and I think he's absolutely right, is that the IP we're focusing on is coming out of the passion of our creative teams.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love some game artwork, and there's a lot of style and influence to be drawn from that, the work of those talented artists. So, yeah, shape people's lives with your art and emotions.
Absolutely, because he goes on to compare the creative process between the ones at Disney and Pixar and the ones at Sega, where someone has an idea, let's say for Shinobi or Frozen, right? Or has an idea for Shinobi, then so they take it and they greenlight it. And while, you have what he was referring to earlier as like the core franchises like Sonic, of course you're going to want more Sonic games. He even says this in the interview. Of course you're going to want more Sonic games. But you leave it up to the creators to develop the game and make the creative choices that they're going to make. Just like you do at Pixar when you want, and Disney when you want like another Incredibles or another Frozen.
Yeah. It's in a lot of ways, like, the art has to come first and, like, the audience kind of needs to take a back seat, because when you say you try to, like, concord it up and, like, make a game that appeals to just the widest audience possible, like, the art usually tends to suffer.
Yes. And
so let the creative folks, do what they think is just the best. And then people will catch on. It'll grow and become cool at its own time and pace.
And Drix, I'm with you, especially when it comes to that outlook. That it's the creatives should have complete control. They're, as the CEO of Larian was saying, design by committee pretty much leads to a failure almost every time. But it's funny because we're going to end on Scarponi's thoughts on the upcoming quote-unquote fan-first approach to the creative process that is actually going to be sweeping mass media. We saw it in the Variety, where Hollywood is making these essentially fan think tanks for their studios to be advised on. And Scarponi doesn't mince words here, Drix. He says it with one word to start everything off. Quote, critical, Scarponi says.
Huh. Yeah, putting the fans first,
Quote,
even if they don't know what's good.
Quote, the companies that are doing that well, I think, are setting themselves up well. Because even if you maybe under-deliver on one title, the fans understand that you're valuing them. And in this generation, teens, young adults, they're so accustomed to that from brands that you really need to take it seriously. And usually it does make the product better. Thank God we listened to on the Sonic issue. It's a big lesson learned. That was well before I joined, but it was one of the first meetings I had in our Burbank studio. I went there to meet the team and asked them to give me a presentation on why they've been so successful. And the first thing they did was present their biggest slip-up, which was that issue, how that came about, and how they corrected the ship. And okay, so here's the thing, Drix. I agree with you. Let the creatives handle the creative decisions and make the work that they want to. But here we go again. Scarponi's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth here, right, Drix? He's like, yeah, of course we gotta let the creatives do what they want to do. But what about the fan first craze that's sweeping all over mass media? Oh, well, of course it's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let the creatives be creative, but also don't make another like Sonic that you need to fix that none of the fans actually like too.
And here's the thing.
Balance in all things, truly.
Indeed. That's what I was about to say, Drix. Where is the line?
Walking the line.
Where is the line, right? Where is the line in this?
It comes with the expectations, I think. Yeah. Like if you say I'm gonna put a D&D campaign like on a ship, you have expectations for that. Like it's gonna be maritime, or like, the setting usually implies, especially familiar characters, stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, like a band. Like, oh, I really like their first stuff. And like after that, they grew, and I departed from what my expectations were from that sound or whatever.
And you know what? It definitely feels like a lot of that. It feels like this this young blossoming industry is having to grow up really fast, because that's just a lot of, like you said, right? Like you just mentioned, Drix, it's a lot of balance. Where is the line? What is truly, where can I say, hey, listen, you know, we know you want to make the Shinobi movie, but you know, ninjas just aren't popular.
To the Shinobi brand.
Yeah, like staying true, and how much does staying true to the Shinobi brand keep it from being a mass marketable thing?
Yeah. Wow. Isn't that just why they make the big bucks? I guess, you know, was the original, you know, Sonic design for the movie, was it focus grouped too much or not enough? And anybody in that focus group could have told you, like, oh yeah, Sonic's supposed to look like this.
And honestly, Drix, here's my whole thing, because again, first of all, I'll just be up front. Let's put our tinfoil hats on for a moment, right?
Speculation.
Just put Just put it on for a second. This guy's from Disney, right? He was one of the, he's a Disney bigwig, and even though well before he joined, one of the main teams showed him that the biggest reason for their current success is because they course corrected on like something that you might said, something that may have been a little too focus tested. So Drix, is this one of, I gotta ask,
not big enough parts.
Is this one of those things where did Sega and Sega's potential mess up or Sega's intervention change the way we that mass media thinks about fan reception?
Yeah, no, I think that it's a bit of a wave in the wake that we are seeing to this day. You know, Sonic's got to look like Sonic, dude.
Sonic, you know what, Drix? You are absolutely right. Sonic's got to look like Sonic. Star Wars has to look like Star Wars.
We've seen it for like decades. You know, it's got to maintain some continuity, some cohesion.
There's a little bit of an expectation, and again, I don't think it's unreasonable. You know, I don't think anybody who sees the success of the Sonic movies after the fuck up and course correction of the first Sonic character model from the movie, I don't think anybody would think that's like a bad move to course correct. And no matter which way you cut it, you can say the studio got bullied, you can say that they shouldn't have needed to change it, it was a creative decision, whatever you want. Drix, at the end of the day, the studio changed it and it worked out. We're staring down the barrel of a third Sonic movie.
Yeah, we would not have 3 of them if they didn't course correct the way they do. So, you know, sometimes you got to play the hits and give the people what they want, you know, especially when it's a beloved franchise IP that people really identify with. You know, when people like lash out on that, you know, like in the comment section, it's because that's a part of their identity that you're changing. So
yes,
I feel like this, you can't present it like that because that's not me, you know.
And it's one of those things, and hey, you know,
places they didn't know they had.
And hey, you know what? It's one of those things where you may feel like when you read comments like that those people are like, oh man, they take that shit too seriously. How could anyone take something like this so seriously? Don't you have anything more to live for? Hey, you know what? The only thing that I have to say about that is maybe both of you are learning something about that person together.
Yeah. Isn't that just a part of the human experience?
That could
We're all
just
journey together. Good luck, everyone.
That could just be it, right? Could just be that, you know what, maybe that person is expressing that in the comments or in any way that he might need to or feel empowered to express himself, and you might be like, how the fuck can you even think about anything like that? You really pick this over this, or you like this over that? Just like we were talking about earlier, Metal Slug. If you never even heard of Metal Slug before, you might look at this new Metal Slug Tactics game and be like, damn, this game looks awesome. I love My Hero Academia. But,
Yeah.
you know, me and Drix were like, fuck, this isn't really Metal Slug, man. It's not really hitting the same way, right? It's not really doing it
Close
for me.
but no cigar.
And how could anybody think that this is Metal Slug? But you know what? That's why we give things like that a 3, because your mileage may vary and you might fall in love with it. But at the end of because there's nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with the way people want to enjoy certain things or live their life. So at the end of the day, like I said, you might be learning something about each other together.
Yeah, just, you know, go on down that road, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes.
Party on, dudes, because, hey, guess what? We have a lot more games coming up. We have a whole new slate of new releases that we just told you, and we can't wait to hear you guys again next week. We got it coming back with the CFM Retro Goldmine. It's coming back. I'm coming back with that save file.
Yeah, luckily
Over on
the save
Twitch.
state. Oldest emulation trick in the book.
Jesus, mother
Save
of God, thank you. Thank you, save states.
It doesn't always hurt when I load accidentally and lose progress.
Yeah. So we're coming in hot. Mother Monday is not next Monday. So be sure you
It'll be
hit
Monday the 18th.
Monday the 18th.
November
So
18th.
be sure you watch those VODs so that when the end comes, you are ready.
Oh yeah, the final Mother Monday. And we'll see what we stream next after that.
And as always, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you everybody, Joseph Ledesma, Drix, Music, Amazing Vector, everybody for sending chats in the chat. And thank you for giving us likes. Everybody who subscribed, thank you for 50 subscriptions on YouTube. Great number. We can't wait to hit 100 with everybody. And we can't wait to see all of you next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yes. Thanks for stopping by. Happy Wednesday, my dudes. We'll see you next week.